I'm not recording my computer. Okay, I believe we are all okay with me recording. If you are not okay with it, just let me know. I will just stop recording. I'm sorry for not talking about it before. Now, so yeah, this is the first project we'll be doing on our on Linguistics Island, which used to be Linguistics Circle. So the community is actually born out of the desire to connect people from all over Africa to deal with language related tech driven stuff. Basically, the initial idea was to just create a community. When I was in my year two, as a year two student, after I have been dealt with by one of my teachers in terms of teaching, so I felt like it is time to just give back to the community. So I created that group for that same purpose. Now, as the group keeps growing, and then we begin to hear, I've heard a lot of people talk to me about collaboration. A lot of people talk to me about registration of the group. A lot of people talk to me about community development and stuff like that. But I've been a lot reluctant because of problems that comes with the community, because I'm not really in need for the money. I'm just in it just to build humanity and nothing more, but just the humanity. Oh, you can't hear me? I'm so sorry if you can't hear me. I don't know what else to do. Is anybody having the same issue? Uh,
Can hear you.
oh, perhaps you can try to sign in your audio like by the left corner, perhaps. Okay, thank you. All right. So I was trying to explain the community, and I was trying to and trying to connect that to what we are trying to do here. So the community now keeps growing. So what actually blew up the community is when I participated as the language ambassador in Aya project. Aya is a project that was created by Google DeepMind and Koe for AI. So I met with the organizers and the CEO multiple times. So and then like because of the contribution we had from me, they felt like collaborating further on different projects, but we've not really had a smooth discussion. Basically, because one, I've not registered a community. Two, I've not figured out how the money is gonna be, and some other technical issues I would have to figure out. But as I said earlier on, I'm not in this for money. I'm in this for just providing opportunities for linguistics, making linguistics relevant, and sustaining the legacy of our forefathers like Noam Chomsky. Okay, so that's the idea behind the community. So what actually led to this particular project was I kind of get a call, and then I've been hearing people talk about the fact that we don't have many data sets, open data sets for African languages. Even the one that we have are not actually representative of our language, if you would agree with me. Some are not written with the standard orthography, some are not written with the mindset of we linguists, some are not written with the idea behind our languages. They are trying uh um to force languages on us. Just before I go further, I want to tell you I intend this meeting to last for just 2 hours. So I hope it will not be more than that. But because we are already 18 minutes in, although we have like 10 minutes wait, like I waited for 10 minutes to start the meeting. Okay, so we had this different communication. So this year, February, I presented my last project at DeepMind and Core AI, and then they were like, okay, if you can show us what you can do in the community, then we can know how to support, right? So and then I have had a lot of people in the group actually telling me, let's do projects, let's find a way to introduce people to the tech world. Let's find a way to introduce people to the juicy part of linguistics, not only about tech, but about many things you can do with linguistics. Because for me, I am a firm believer of you are not useful if all that you're useful for is the classroom. You are useless. You are as useless as nothing, because in the classroom, it's what you have is the four walls. We are not made for the four walls. We are made for the world. If you are made for the world, then you should pick the classroom and let the classroom leave you onto the street. And what I mean by that short analogy is that if you are a scholar, you should be aiming at being useful for the community, being useful for the society, being useful for the immediate people around you. Because the more people see the usefulness of you, who you are, the more respect you get, and the more importance people place on your cause, right? Um, so that is the idea behind the community and the project. Okay, so I have called this Yawa Linguistics. So it's Yawa Day. Like I wanted to call it Yan Linguistics, but I think that will be another pilot of this project. The first one will be Yawa. I think we all, at least a good number of us, understand Pidgin. Yawa just mean problem. So like Yawa, and in this case, I don't mean problem actually. I just mean like Yawa Day, like talk day. Like I mean, like there is there is something to talk about. So yeah, I was something is boiling, something is happening. Yeah. So that's the idea. I am Samuel. I do I'm not a linguist yet. I'm still a linguist in training. I am currently doing my graduate studies and I do most of my work in linguistics, particularly phonology and phonetics. And then I do computational linguistics. Before now, I was into natural language processing. I worked at Neurospace. I worked at Organ Phase. I worked at uh, Sussex Humanity Lab at University of London. I, yeah, basically that's the highlight I can think of in my head. More importantly, I am crazy about data. I believe that human data should be taken care of without sorry about that, Haruna, concerning your network. Okay. So I mean you can still watch the video later if the network is really bad. Okay. So this is Yawa Linguistics. Sorry. So Yawa Linguistics is the idea is dataset for African languages. The sole aim of this project is to build dataset and just a nugget. I'm sorry I didn't proofread this slide that I did because I was a lot busy this week and I prepared these slides in just like in hurry. So pardon me if you have or if you see a form of grammatical error in any of these. I apologize in anticipation. Okay, so the sole aim of this project is to build datasets for the languages represented in the expression of interest. And so what are the languages? The languages I have when we express our interest are Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Nigerian Pidgin. We have somebody that want to do Fula, we have Urobo, we have Arabic. Oh my God, I left one out. We have Ibibio. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add that now. Sorry about that. So that I don't Ibibio. Yeah. So we have Ibibio, and in fact, we didn't have only Ibibio. We have one that is Ogbia. I don't know what that is. Yeah, but I know Dr. Mirabo, who is at in Port Harcourt, wants to do something on Ogbia. Okay, so these are the languages we have. I don't know how much we would do with them. I'm thinking we should just have a focus. So by the number of people, by the number of expression of interest, Yoruba has the highest, followed by Hausa, followed by Igbo, then we have the Nigerian Pidgin. Perhaps we might just leave out Fula, Urobo, Arabic, Ibibio, Ogbia, and I would ask for our consent later when I'm done with the project idea. But just put it at the back of your mind that we might just be concentrating on these four languages for now, just to have a good grasp of what we are doing. So the licensing of this project. So this project is going to be open source. We're going to be uploading it. I created Hugging Face account last uh, some some hours ago. Like so because wicked people don't sleep, so no sleep for the wicked. All right. That's it. That's my one of my favorite quotes anyway. That's by the way. Okay, so we create a GitHub account, then we create a Kaggle account. These are sorted after platforms where people look for data sets. And why do we have to keep it this way? We have to keep it this way so that people can see what we are doing. When I present this project, perhaps in conferences or in my talks, I can have a reference point and say, okay, we did this, like we did this, and then if we have funding of if we solicit for funding, we apply for funding. It's easier to get funding when you show what you are doing and not just talk what you're doing. There's no time for talk, right? There is only time for doing. So many businessmen don't have time for your jingoism. What they have time for is real work. Okay, and that is why I've chosen to upload this on these three accounts. So why a snippet of how and why this project is very important. It is an undertone. The undertone of this project is actually to promote our languages. While I know that many languages, most of our languages have native speakers, unfortunately, if you agree with me, the kind of death that is happening to many language Nigerian languages, Hausa inclusive, is kind of a top-down thing where you would agree that your parents seems to be more proficient in the language than you as a young person, right? Even though many scholars have been treating this as an emergent grammar, an idea founded by Blanc and what's his name? Archangel, yeah, on emergent grammar. I still believe that if we lose the authenticity of our languages, we're gonna suffer for it. So the undertone of this project is actually to promote our languages as a community. So then we are representing our languages in the mainstream work. So the kind of project we are doing now, I believe, is gonna be representing what is going on in the tech world. So if we can at least stick somewhere around what is going on, then people can hear our voice in terms of um in terms of doing things that people want to really read, doing things that people want. So what that would do for us would be that we will get the attention, we might get funding, we might get collaboration, and whatever things that can come up, we can get a lot of things like computing power and other things. Um, so why should you as a person care? So yeah, so uh my aim in this project is not to actually lure you into it because it's a volunteering project. My aim is to actually convince you that we need to do this project, and then it is your choice to actually agree with me or not. So it's academically driven, and it is work driven too, right? So and I don't sure I've created a deadline for it. We just keep doing it, right? So why should you care? Because now I need to convince you, right? Okay, why should I do this if I'm not being paid? Okay, so there are different things that you may want to join uh uh, the project. You gonna be building a hands-on skill set. So we're gonna be doing data development, prompt engineering and development, hands-on data set development skills, data annotation, creation and analysis. Number two, you're gonna be building a portfolio. I told you that we'll be uploading this uh, on different data set platforms, right? So you are gonna be receiving acknowledgement from different platforms. If we end up publishing it, you'll be part of the authors of this particular project, right? So that is a plus. Volunteering is profitable. Yeah, I can say wholeheartedly that volunteering is profitable. You can get profit from volunteering. And volunteering in the idea of many Nigerian is like somebody is using you as slavery. Nah, that is not the idea behind volunteering. In volunteering, you get people that are really, really ready to work because the idea is if you are when you are a student, if you only read when you have exams, you may end up being one of the coolest person on earth. I mean, one of the dollars, not because you've not read when you're in school, but because your motivation for reading is not actually to grow and do the work, but to pass the exams, right? So it's the same thing in volunteering. At volunteering, you can see Elon Musk volunteering, right? You can see Bill Gates volunteering. You can see big people volunteering, but you cannot see big people working for money. Do you understand the idea? You cannot see Elon Musk working for money, for example. Elon Musk is particular about his product, about his name, about his fame, about his business, and not what an average person will be looking for. Can you pay me 2,000? Can you pay me 3,000? He's not in for that. He can't even count the amount he's getting per week, right? So volunteer, big people volunteer, but they don't work for money. Small people, and I don't mean small as in, I just mean like non-big men, like in terms of the Bill Gates people, they work for money, right? So it's a capitalism mentality that we need to break, but that is a talk for another day. All right. So volunteering is profitable. So possibility of funding, yeah, I won't deny that we might get funding. So if there are people interested in our works and they are ready to collaborate, we could get funding. So we are targeting major funding agents at the moment. I'm targeting Lacuna. I'm targeting Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations. I'm targeting Data Africa. I'm even targeting Mozilla. Mozilla released their funding for only one lab this this year at as in South Africa, ed by Vukosi. Yeah, and it's a huge, and I mean huge funding. There are some funds that you will get if you are not the wicked type. Your generations will eat out of the funds. I mean, even your generations unborn, right? It's a very huge funding. Okay. Yeah, we might get funding. I won't deny that, but the idea behind this is not funding. The idea behind this is volunteering. If funding comes, fine. If funding does not come, fine. So I hope I'm able to convince you. So what are the stages we're going to be passing through for this project? We have these stages: the dataset creation, the dataset annotation, dataset analysis, dataset archiving. So the first one is the stage we are now. We're going to be creating datasets. How do we create machine datasets? If you are hired for a project, how would you create machine datasets, for example? So yeah, that's the idea here. Dataset annotation, how do you annotate the data? Annotation just means labeling. How do you name your data for machine to learn from? Dataset analysis, after you've named it, how do you analyze it? How do you know whether you've reached the specific goal? Suppose your employer is saying, okay, what have we achieved while we created the data set? Have we achieved what we annotated these data sets? How do you do such analysis? And then when you are done with your work, how do you archive it? For retrieval purposes, for a lot of purposes, how do you archive your data set? Okay. So data sets, what are they? So data sets are inputs given to machines to learn. So just as I said it, machine cannot think, they don't have their brain. You give them what they want to learn, they give you what you give to them, right? So if we want to build a robot that will speak like human, then the robot must have something in it that is using to generate what is telling us, right? As I'm working on my computer now, I can type on my computer can talk to me, my computer can read what I'm saying, right? what I'm typing, and convert it into letters. Machines don't read in alphabet, they read in numbers. So it takes machine to pick the alphabet, convert it to alphabet, it's called alphabet, and then return it as a letter. So merely using your computer, you're already dealing with data set. So because it is what has been given to the computer that the computer is giving back to you. So the sole aim of the input is to make sure that machines have relevant patterns to learn from, to learn. So when you give it an input, you're not just giving it anyhow input. You're giving it an input with a pattern. So say for example, you want to teach computer that past tense exists in English. You will start from generalization into the odd ones. So you start giving it boy, boys, girl, girls, phone, phones, book, books. You don't start giving it child, children. If you do, machine is not going to learn. So your first iteration is I want to let it learn the S pattern, the ES pattern, then the odd ones, right? You as a linguist understand that, okay, this is the morphological information in this language. And I must create a way to make it easier for machine to learn. So since machines are created for the purpose of interacting with humans, the aim of the input is to create the general patterns of how humans interact and think. So you decide as a linguist, you decide that, okay, I think this is a general form. Like in Hausa plural formation it's damn complex. So before you can teach uh, 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 a machine book, books, or houses in Hausa, you must find a way to first know that the plural is complex, right? Humans interacting and thinking, we pick it at once. They don't pick it at once. So you find a pattern and then give it to the machine. Once it has learned the pattern, the machine learning engineers will tell you, okay, yeah, can you test this pattern on the machine? And I give it something, it returns the value. So, oh yeah, it has learned this. Then I give it a more complex pattern. Then I increase the threshold. I increase the threshold till it learns at least to some extent. The beautiful thing is that it's a form of simulation. So when it's just like you are stimulating somebody to annoyance. Let's say that person is very slow to anger, right? And then you stepped on the person's toe, he didn't react. You slap his face, he didn't react. You knock his head, he didn't react. There's a point you push him to the wall that he reacts, right? That's the form of simulation. So by the time you keep feeding the machine begins to think itself because now it has learned the pattern. It's becoming wise, right? And then they are very wise because they are machines. They work 24/7. Like my chat, I don't chat for more than I'm not sure I chat for more than 2-3 hours per day. Any day you are on my WhatsApp and you are chatting, for example, most of the time you are dealing with the bot on my laptop on my phone. I don't use it, right? So it has I had to export my chat and give it to the machine. First, I had to deal with someone I talk to systematically, and then someone I rarely talk to, which means that the pattern of speech, the pattern of talk will be different. Okay. That pattern of thinking is how you are dealing with the machine. And this is the data set, the sentences, the words, the patterns, the morphemes, the phones, the phonemes. This is the data set. It's nothing but data set. So data set is not a big name. Data sets are inputs given to machine to stimulate them to think like humans. So look at this example. Sam eats rice. I know Kaduna is left of Sokoto. I have been to University of Lagos. So Sam eats rice. Samuel is human being and he has the capability of eating rice. So rice has the feature of being eaten in quote. Okay, I know Kaduna. Kaduna is a location. Left is side of a location and then Sokoto. So the sum in this case, if you are doing POS tagging, it will be NP. PNP, primary proper noun phrase, E to be VP, and rice to be NP, right? Kaduna, if you are doing NER, be location, right? Sokoto will be location. University of Lagos will be location. We would see what this means in a minute. So what are the examples of NLP tasks? So because we want to break down different events of how humans interact, these inputs have different variations. And the variations in the inputs are strengthened by what humans do and how we are able to make them useful. On the average, we've not even done like 10% of what humans are doing when they're interacting in the real sense of things. So this NLP task I'm trying to show you are just tip of an iceberg, at least the little things that has been useful to train machine on. Remember that data set is a list of sentence. In that sentence, there are many things there. Like, look at this. Look at this. The examples I gave you is an example of data set. Sam is right. These are sentences in English. Machine will learn Sam is PNP and he has the ability to eat rice and he has the ability and the rice has the ability to take in this action. It's not just sentence. Every word has the meaning and the meaning contribute to the meaning of the sentence. That is what machine is learning. You as human don't think about this thing because you are human. Machines don't think like that. They've never known words, right? So one of the tasks that we bring this set for is sentiment analysis. So sentiment analysis, sentiment, when you say this guy is being sentimental, you know what that means. It means he's taking a side. So I know Buhari is from the north. That is why he only raised cows. That's a sentiment. That's a sentimental discussion. You don't say that, right? I remember. I gave an example in one of my talk, and I couldn't think but use one word, and it was a bit brutal. And then when I wanted to submit my slide, the organizers told me that they would have to blur those points when I was talking, and I will have to change my slide. And I was telling them this is just a a prompt on the ounce, like at the spot. He said, no, you don't say that. Okay, so sentiment analysis, understanding the sentiment in what people are doing. So this is more of pragmatics. This is more of semantics and pragmatics. As a linguist, we think about it. So when you, as a linguist, is brought on board to work on sentiment analysis, think about it from pragmatics. You have to be reading materials on pragmatics. How has people been able to code the environment? Pragmatics is situations, conversation, conversation analysis, conversational analysis, conversational context. Context means conversation, the text in the conversation. Just as any word can mean anything at different contexts, right? A word has a primary meaning, has different meanings in different contexts. So, related to sentiment analysis is hate speech. So the example I give you about Buhari is hate speech. It's not sentiment. So when you say sentiment, you are dealing with insultive, abusive, non-positive words about somebody. But when you are dealing with a sentiment, you are taking a side. For example, I don't like him. I hate him. I hate him. It means you don't like the person. You take a side of negativity, right? I know that he's a good person, but good people can be bad. That is neutral, right? You admit that this person is a good person, but then you still admit that the good person can also be bad. That's neutral. I know Amadu is an intelligent man. That is a positive sentiment, right? So sentiments are not hate speech. But imagine I know Samuel is a Yoruba man. That is how Yoruba people do, right? That's hate speech. Because what you are saying is, what you are saying here is typical of a tribe, more like a stereotype, more like a stigma, a stigma. I know Yoruba people have the best meal in town, but don't trust them with the pepper in the food. That is not positive. That's a hate speech about a tribe, right? So I put a kind of a simple chart here, and I want you to think about this thing, not just in doing them, but understanding what you are doing and why you are doing it, right? So it's not just about, uh, let me see, I still have some, like an hour more, an hour plus. Think about it in terms of what you are doing and not just doing it. Because if you don't understand, like generative grammar, at the point of the recursion, which is at the X bar level, right? At that level is where you can keep recursive going. If you understand that this is the level of recursive, you can have as long as 50 embeddings in a single sentence because you knew where the creativity is coming from, right? You know that, okay, at the X bar level is where we keep twisting things. So if you understand sentiment, you understand why we are creating sentiment, you understand everything in sentiment. It's a mixture of hate speech and taking sentiment about something. Then I know how to generate data sets, right? So when I was working at Neurospace, my first task was to do a test, and that test was to kind of tell people to generate sentiment analysis data set. And I didn't do anything then. I picked up John Sahid book on semantics. I read John Searle. I read how to do things with words. Peter Austin, and I came up with data sets. I generated. I worked 8 hours per day remotely. I think at the end of the week, I generated about 500,000 sentences, if not more, because I knew what I wanted to do. So I just create a positive sentence, automatically insert negative into it, create a positive sentence, crawl the web, put them together, and then clean it up, right? So you can speed up your work. You can, and I tell you, you can be paid handsomely for this because computer scientists don't know, they don't care, right? All they care about is the data, but you care about the data, and you know how we are in the data. If you say somebody you are mean, you're telling the person you are mean. I know Sam can be good sometimes. You're a good man. That's a positive statement, right? Sam is a jerk. Sam no be better person. This pigeon, right? So these are just examples to portray how sentiment analysis works. A mixture of sentiment and a mixture of his speech. Another task is called name entity recognition. As the name implies, it simply means that we are trying to uh, um, we are trying to name entities so that machine can recognize them. You know what entities are? Person, places, phone numbers. Entities, as a linguist, I will use arguments. You know what arguments are? Argument structure, right? So Sam eats rice. Sam is a person, isn't it? Rice is a food. So if you are on a project and you are to do named entity recognition, what are you going to be picking out there? You're going to be creating out every noun in that sentence. That's simple. So they would have provided you with the data set. You would just be naming them. You as a linguist know that, okay, this is the name of a place, this is the name of a thing, nouns. So we know from linguistics that the verb, at least advanced syntax, the verb house the argument, which is called the argument structure. So from the verb, we have the nouns. So Sam eat rice. Eat is the main word there, right? it's subcategorized for Sam and rice. So when I have the verb, so if you are training a machine, you know what they're gonna do? They would remove Sam and rice and assume it as the head word, and then they know that wherever you see it, machine should learn two things. One, something that can eat, and something that could be eaten. So you don't machine does not have to learn all the words, you just have to learn the meaning of the eat. And this is part of what you do with name entity recognition. Another thing is entity recognition tell us about a place. I have never been to, let's say, I've never been to which state? Maybe Abakaliki. I've not been to Abakaliki, but I've been to many places back in Nigeria. And then somebody want to tell me that there are places that exist in Abakaliki, and we want to train a machine. Like look at Google location. Google location is working on name entity recognition data set, right? Because it needs to know there is Sabongeri in Kano. There are different places in Kano. Kano is a very beautiful town, by the way, anyway. And then you've been there, Kofa this, Kofa that, these places. You as a linguist are meant to. So how do you generate the data set? You know that you are creating a sentence. There is a verb in it, and it shows location, time, person. It shows nouns. So you begin to manipulate it. Ola ate rice, Olu ate beans, the president. I mean, eat alone can go with different things. You are trying to create more persons, you are trying to create more locations, you're trying to create phone numbers, you're trying to create addresses, you're trying to create time. Anything that deals with now in a sentence is the name entity recognition. Entity is something, right? Named, the one that we give a name to. So the name of the entity for machine to recognize. Don't forget, data set is input, right? Created to stimulate machine to learn how human thinks. Okay, that is name entity recognition. By the way, if you have questions, you can just stop me. If I say something that is not clear, you can just stop me. I'm happy to take your questions. Another data set we'll be building is chatbot data set. So I know many people are interested in chatbots. What are they doing in chatbots? What kind of data set do they create in chatbots and stuff like that? The things you create in chatbots are intent and entities. So they're going to ask you how many intents do you have in this data set? How many entities do you have? The intent should be understood as a reason for an action. So the reason, don't forget the idea behind name entity recognition. You have a verb, you have two nouns, or you have the argument, right? So the intent is the action. The entities are the nouns. Just the same way as the name identity recognition, just the same idea. So look at this chart I put here. The intent equals to verbs, the entities are the nouns. So Sam, return. So if on an e-commerce data set and we want to build a chatbot that takes in transactions, right? Let's say Jumia, right, or Alibaba wants to build a chatbot, and you are hired as a linguist to create a chatbot dataset. What are you expected to do? You're expected to create an intent and entities. So first, you want to identify your intent. Your entities are innumerable most of the time, but your intent are very important. You know that when you have an e-commerce site, they are returning, they are purchasing, right? They are buying, they are selling, they are inquiring, right? What other things do you think they will be doing in an e-commerce site? Whatever thing you can think about, right? If you are building it for, so I've done this before when I was at Neurospace, I built a chatbot data set, about 1 million entities thereabouts, if not more. And then I created intent. I think I had like 9 intents thereabouts. And then we had different entities. Yeah, product review. You can have product review, whatever things that chatbot can help with, right? So you have the entity, Sam, and the intent is return. That you want to return, and then the entity here is the cloth. So it means someone wants to return a cloth, right? So he bought the cloth and is returning it. That means he doesn't want, right? So you're gonna tag this as the intent, the reason for Sam to, it's relationship between Sam and cloth. And what is it returning? Cloth. NP. This is an entity, right? And Sam is an entity. I built one for Boeing, which is an aircraft organization. And then what we have there is cancel flight, book a flight, talk to flight agent, inquiries and stuff like that, right? So I cancel my flight. I cancel my flight. Cancel is the intent, right? Why is this person here? He wants to cancel the flight. And what is he canceling? The flight. Who is the person? I. NP cancel. So entity intent. I hope I'm able to simplify this a lot. If you have questions, stop me by. Another task we'll be building dataset for is part of speech tagging. Oh, thank you so much, Joy Olusanya. That's a very good question. What about creating chatbot dataset on mental health? Definitely. So the same idea behind this. So the intent. So what are your intents when you're dealing with mental health? Trauma, ADHD, OCD. Those are the effects, right? So I feel down. I'm not so conversant with the mental health, uh, um, with the mental health uh, niche, but of course, it's something I could do after I do a lot of research. But it's just understanding. So you understand the idea behind the chatbot dataset. You understand the intent. You understand the reason. So somebody is having trauma. Somebody is traumatized. I am traumatized. In that case, I feel sick. In that case, can I talk to the doctor, please? I want to book an appointment. So there will be booking because you have to talk to your mental health practitioner. There will be inquiries, right? There will be complaining, isn't it? So I feel sick. I have ADHD, right? These are complaints. There will be um there will be I mean it could be anything. Once you understand the idea behind chatbot datasets, for me, I am not really interested in whatever product. No, I'm not saying I'm not interested. I'm not particular about the number of the kind of niche you are working from. I am particular about you having a good grasp of what am I doing, so that when I know what I'm doing, I can manipulate it. That idea is very important. The more you know it, the more you can manipulate it. You can when you know something like your hand, you can do anything with it. You can be creative with it. For me, I build a data set without coding. I analyze the data set without coding. I've worked when I worked at Neurospace, I didn't write one line of code, and my salary did not drop. I didn't write one line Python of code. I code right, but I didn't. It's just understanding. I have learned it so much that I can just with just linguistic tools, I'm fine. You don't have to code to be in tech, and that is the idea. You just have to understand what you are doing. In fact, they're gonna rush you like Indomie in terms of job opportunities, and I'm damn serious about it. Just understand what you are doing. Show products that you've done it. It's that simple, right? So I hope I'm able to answer your question a bit, Joy Olusanya. I'm I just hope. But if you still have other questions, just let me know. Okay. So the last task we'll be talking about is part of speech tagging. So part of this speech tagging is basically, okay, thank you, Joy. It's basically part of speech. From linguistics, you know what that means already. The part of a speech, the part of a sentence, we are tagging it with something, right? So it is process of disambiguating the words in the data set. So when you are training a model, when you are training a machine, there are different things you could do to make sure the machine is learning. Give me 1 minute. I want to switch this. For the transmission. Okay. So part of speech tagging is just a way of disambiguating the words you have in your data set. So I think there are different ways of learning. There is discrimination, there is learning, there is stochastics. I'm not going to talk about machine learning today. I I did a course, I'm still doing a course on machine learning. I'm doing a course on machine learning in terms of signal processing. And my aim is to learn how to do signal processing. If you have the time, please take a course in signal processing. It's a bit tough for somebody that does not like mathematics, but you would thank your God that you learned it. Because you see, with signal processing, you can pick a raw data set like African languages and build product with it. Build speech to text, text to speech without really doing much, right? It's just understanding the bands and the acoustic information of the speech and stuff like that. The course has been a bit challenging, but what I've learned in the course is you can do part of speech tagging even with speech, right? But it's kind of complex a bit. It's interesting for me, I love it, right? But not everybody might love it. So that way of, when you have a wave, you don't know what is what. You just have the wave. So when machines are learning, you can tell machine to discriminate. So discriminating learning just means that when I have Latif, Latif is handsome, Samuel is ugly. Now, I want to teach machine that Latif and Samuel, they are both nouns, but Latif is not Samuel. That is discrimination, right? So when machine picks Latif and picks Samuel, Latif is handsome, right? Samuel is ugly. I can decide to say, okay, handsome and ugly differentiates Samuel from Latif. So when I pick the byte, I pick Latif, I pick Samuel. I correlate it with handsome and I correlate it with ugly. And then I discriminate by the adjective. Kind of complex, but don't worry about how the computation is done. You just take the loss function and you begin to adjust it till you have something very reasonable. It's pretty straightforward actually, but then it can be a bit complex for someone that is just new to it. Okay. All right. So we are just teaching machines to learn. Look at the example I give you. Man eats rice. He mans gate. Right? So man in the first sentence is a noun. Man in the second sentence is a verb. So if we can use the right tag on the right word, we can disambiguate the words that machine can learn from, right? So ina, ina, in Hausa, ina kwana and ina zwa. There are two different words, right? one is a question, one is I am, right? If I remember my phonology correctly. So once you tag with the right tag, then you can tell machine to even though you are seeing this form, even though they are suprasegmentally different, textually we might not be able to differentiate them, but by the tags we can be able to do so. So what we're going to do as a machine learning engineer, they will create a dictionary. So it's going to map man to PNP, man to VP. So it's going to manipulate the tags and not manipulate the noun, because it is the tag that is telling us the noun. If you go from the noun, then they are the same, right? So we create a network that would map the noun, the tag with the nouns, and then spit out the right form. So you can do RNN, you can do whatever machine learning network you want to use. But that is just the technical aspect of it. Your own idea is you want to create sentences that have different parts of speech. You know that there is oblique case. Let's just say you want to create you want to create different sentences with different case, accusative, nominative, oblique, whatever case you want to think of, and then you keep manipulating the sentences. You keep manipulating the sentences. You can decide to create one. You can decide to create the same sentence. You can start by creating 100 sentences. In that 100 sentence, you can have 20 same sentences. Then in the 20, replace a part. Let's say Latif is here. Latif is handsome. Latif is Latif loves linguistics. Latif loves food. Latif is married. Latif is searching for food. Latif is a devoted Muslim. I love Latif. Latif has been good to me. I can control H in my Word document and replace Latif with Samuel. Different meaning, right? I can control H in my Word document and replace all adjective with another adjective. What have I done? So I will duplicate the sentence and replace it and then copy and paste it in another place. I can do that for the first 100 word, the first 100 sentence. Then I can decide to look at the sentence using my NatConc, find a pattern there and replace it again, duplicate it and put it in the dataset. It is that simple. I think we would do practicals. Perhaps that will make it a lot concrete. So I haven't learned the different talks. I would give us in like I would give us like in 3 minutes. Um, I'm gonna just explain the first one. So we have like 10 minutes break. You can decide to just stay off your screen for some time, or you can decide just to ask your questions. Then I would be here waiting for the like 10 minutes break. So the approach we're gonna be using for this project is 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 what I call the frame theory, translation, open source web crawling, context and thematic development. So these are the strategies we'll be deploying in creating all these tasks. So um, I'm going to give us like 10 minutes break. So we'll come back by 12:16, right? 12:16 your time to continue. So, but for now, if you have questions, you can ask your questions. Okay. Thank you so much for that short break. I believe that we don't have questions. Um, so, the different techniques we're gonna be using. They are. I was explaining them the other time. The frame theory. So A verb B, A verb, then we can have PP, A verb B PP. So what I mean by this frame is trying to create a frame. Suppose our target is to create 1,000 sentences for Hausa, right? So I can decide to say, okay, I can decide to say I'm using 3 framework. So that will be that I'm having like 300 and something sentences. And in those 300 and something, in that 1,000, each of these A, B, C will be 300 and something. That makes up the 1,000, right? So I accept to have this frame: a noun, a verb, an object. A noun, a verb, an object, 300 and something times. And a verb, a noun and a verb, 300 and something times. Then a PP, a noun, a verb, and a noun with a PP, 300 and something times. Does that make sense? If you have questions, it can be a bit technical here now, right? And I admit. So if you have Samuel ate rice, Latif ate beans, noun, verb, noun, noun, verb, noun, noun, verb, noun. Samuel sleeps, Samuel jumps, Samuel runs, Latif sings, Latif dances, Latif danced, right? So in that kind of manner, you are having um, a pattern, a frame for your sentences. And you can use it to create any type of data set, from sentiment to chatbots to part of speech tagging, from part of speech tagging um to uh named entity recognition. So these are the approaches we'll be taking for the data set we're building. You can be translating. So some people call this back propagation. So translation in the sense that you can go on, you can have an English data set and you try to translate it to the target language just to have the data set. So suppose I have a data set in a sentiment analysis data set in English and I want to have it in Yoruba, I can decide to translate it from English to Yoruba. That is possible. But that may be a bit tricky for a sentiment analysis, because for a name data recognition, because in the name data recognition, you are particular about the location, the time, the currency, for example, right? So, which would differ by country. So you really can't do that you can't do translation in that context. Notice that I didn't talk about machine translation data set. I'll refer you to there was a time we had this short course on NLP for linguists. So I may explain some stuff that I'm explaining now here, that I'm explaining now in those videos. Okay. You can do open source web crawling. So if you have like a news outlet that you know in Hausa, you can use this link. Um, Copy. I'm gonna put it in the chat. I think anyone that's attended my meeting, uh, this shouldn't be YouTube. I don't know if anybody tries it out. Let me know whether it's a YouTube link because it's kind of showing YouTube here. So you can decide to crawl the web. Again, you can't do that with a language like, let's say, Ibibio. You might even get Ibibio, like, let's say, a language like Oworo, like languages without a news outlet. an online platform where you can really crawl the web. Another technique we'll be using is context or thematic development. So, like somebody was asking about mental health, right? So, mental health is a thematic development. So, we know what kind of words that will be present in the theme. We know what kind of thing that you are expecting in the theme. So, you can decide to say, I want to be talking about medical context, right? So, if I want to develop using my frame theory, A, verb B. So I want to talk about doctor, the nurse, the patient, the injection, the drugs. So I have this thing in my head. And I say, okay, with this, I want to create like 5,000 data sets. I've identified medicine, mental health, education, farming, food, cooking, right? So I can go and get dictionary on accounting, for example, and translate the terms to Yoruba and then try to develop using frame theory the data set using the context. So these are the few methods that I've employed in the past and they really, really work well for me. Let me know if you have questions about any of them. So I put using AntConc here because AntConc has really helped me a lot. So AntConc was developed by Lawrence Anthony to help linguists work with large data sets. So in corpus linguistics, a data set is a corpora or is a corpus. A data set is a corpus. Not a big term. Corpus is just a list of sentences. They are data sets, right? So they are not anything big. They're just data sets. So in a data set, you have the tokens, you have the types. So the tokens is the total word count in the data set. You could see this as a total word count, right? The types are the total word count for every unique word. So let's say I have Samuel eats rice, Samuel eats beans, Samuel eats pineapple. You know, I have 3 mentions of Samuel and I have 3 mentions of eat, right? In terms of tokens, I will count all those 3 mentions of Samuel and eat as a different word. But in terms of type, I'm going to count Samuel and eat as one word. So Samuel eats rice, Samuel eats beans, Samuel eats apple. Samuel eats, Samuel eats, Samuel will be one word, one type, eat will be another type, rice will be one type, apple will be one type, and the other food, beans, will be another type. But in terms of token, the first Samuel is one, the first eat is two, the rice is three. The second mention of Samuel is 4. The second mention of it is 5. The apple is 6. The third mention of Samuel is 7. The third mention of it is 8. And then the beans is 9 in terms of tokens. I hope that makes sense. So when you are dealing with, let's say you are crawling the web, let's say you want to start by getting ideas from the data set in the web, right? You can use AntConc to segment it by types. So now at the type level, you know that you are dealing with all the unique words. I want to use those unique words to create a data set, right? Just to facilitate your data set creation. So I'm gonna do a short demo on that. I'm gonna stop sharing. Um, so I would start sharing another thing. So to get AntConc, You go to Ant, you type Antconc, download. See Lawrence Anthony. Um, you can download this. The first one, if you are on Windows, I think it has downloaded. It's still downloading. So I'm gonna install. Once I click on Antconc, I'm gonna run it. Okay. Accept, next, next, install. So I'm installing Antconc. Um, is there a way I can hide these? Now, nah, the link is not working. How do I hide this again? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna share my link. Hey, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna start. Can you see my screen? I believe you can see my screen, right? Okay. So this is the link I wanted to share. I shared the wrong one. So suppose I want to crawl for I want to crawl from BBC Yoruba. So so this is a news in Yoruba, right? So what I can do is just to make my work systematic enough, I can decide to um go by this. So this is Ere Idaraya, this sport, right? I can click this. So now I have this here. So to start crawling, I would select the link to the article. I will copy it. I will paste it here in the URL and I will click submit. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna crawl the web for me without coding, right? What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hide the boilerplate, and now I have a list of sentences, right? To copy this out, I'm going to manually select it. Once I do that, then I Control C, then I open my document, my my Word document. you might not see my screen again, right? But I'm using my Word document just to paste the data set. In fact, don't let me use my document. Let me use online document, right? So I'm gonna use Google Doc. So I'm gonna paste it here. So this is the data set. I want to crawl another one. I will go back. I will click the link to the article. I will copy it. I will paste it in there. I will submit. So I have the news. I will copy this. Control C. I'll go to my document. I'll paste it. And I could keep creating a lot of documents in this way. Right. So now that I have the document, Data Yoruba, I want to go to File. I want to make sure I save this file in a plain text. I mean the TXT format. So I'm going to save it in a TXT format. I've downloaded it in a TXT format. So I'm going to go to my I'm going to go to my AntConc. So it has stopped sharing because I'm trying to locate here. So if I open my AntConc, this is what I'm gonna see, right? So I'm gonna go to File. I'm gonna open File. I'm gonna go to my downloads. So I already loaded this file. You see, this is the corpus I just crawled. What I want to do is I want to get the types, right? So that I can use it to create data set. I don't know why people are joining and joining. This is disturbing. Okay, so I want to go to words. I want to sort by, you can see this down button. If you look at this down part, sort by not frequency, but by type. So I'm going to go to Word. Nah. So I can decide to search. No, there is a way. I don't want to search this. I want to do. Um, so basically, you change this from frequency to type, then you start. So you can see that all I have here are all the words. So I have 280 words. and they are all independent words. We have someone, see, sile, sinu, stage, soon, see, saw, someone, re. Now, if you observe, see, there is a mid tone. Number 219. Number 224 is C, which is a high tone. So it takes it at different words, which is recognized the tones, right? So the number of types are 280. If you look at this right hand corner here, the number of tokens are 733. So what you have just done is you have tried to bring out every unique word in data set. So when you do that, and then you want to select everything, you want to select this, you want to copy it, Control C. You can paste it in any document you want. For me, I mostly use Word document. So now I can begin to create my sentences. I can begin to use those words to create sentences. I can begin to use those words to create data set. I don't know whether this make any sense to any of us. So that is basically how to use the link for the data set, and how to generate data set without coding it. So what we have just done now is we have scrolled the web for data set without Python, without beautiful soup or whatsoever, and that is it. So I'm gonna go back to my slides. Time is fast spent. So I want to quickly, before we now talk about our work, I want to quickly address the issue of linguistics and business. So the poverty of linguistics, there is no direct correlation of linguistics to the word. Linguistics, in the real sense of things, doesn't have a direct correlation, like in terms of having patients, like a doctor. You don't have such in linguistics. We are marginalized. Even people that study linguistics, it's so sad that they might not even know what linguistics is all about. For the 4 years, they're just being forced to study linguistics. Because most of the time, there are people that wanted to study mass communication or law that is thrown into linguistics. And linguistics is not for everyone. It's a very technical course. Thank God things are changing now anyway. So with computational linguistics and NLP stuff, linguistics is becoming something they can't do with. Right. So if you're talking about the business and the money you make and how to charge, you really want to consider the kind of the business you're doing, right? If you are doing translating, or you are localizing, or you're a data engineer, or you are selling data sets, because you can sell your data set actually. So depending on what niche you are, I would not be specific, but the pricing comes in these stages. You can look at it from the word count, the domains, and the analysis. So the word count is what is the size? So once you're given a data set, what are you going to do first? You want to go to your ant conc. Just what I just did now, you can easily go to your ant conc, um, put it, import the data set there, and check the tokens and check the types. By the time you are checking the types will tell you every unique word in that data set. That way you can gauge and say, okay, this data set is in tech domain, because some of these tech guys will tell you that the data set is so simple. Some can be a bit somehow by telling you it is something I can do myself. I don't just have the time to do it. I mean, why can't you do it? But that's what they say. They tell you because it's a very simple data set. But you will tell them, can I have the data set? Especially if you are doing translating and localizing. You put it in your AntConc. You check. Okay, these are the types I'm having in this word, in this data set. I can guess this is the niche. No, this is not a simple data set. So You know how you charge yourself. You know how you charge them, right? So make sure you understand the data set before you give a price. Most of the time, they just tell you word of mouth and say, okay, it's a very simple task. You just put this and put that. Insist on seeing the data set before you drop your price. And then with the ant conch, you can know the number of words, you can know the number of sentences. So with that, you can gauge, okay, if somebody is saying I'm having 2,000 sentences and it end up being like 2,300, 2,500, you wouldn't take such, right? Especially that if you are translating from English to Nigerian languages, you will observe that many times, especially Yoruba, one sentence in English is like a lot of lines in Yoruba, right? So, but with AntConc, you can check the analysis. You can see and say, okay, well, for what I'm seeing here, this is the number of sentences in the target, in the source, but the target language has much more, especially if you are going by word count. So you can't I can't give you a price based on English. If I do, I will change myself because a word in English is like 3 words in Yoruba. So, and then it goes back and forth. But it boils down to you understanding the data set by going to AntConc. So you must understand the task you are working with. Are you annotating? Are you translating or interpreting? Are you doing prompt engineering? Are you doing archiving? Today, I have tried to remove prompt engineering from this discussion. I think did I from this discussion for a reason. And the reason is it's a word on its own. And it's a technique we would adopt once we start building data set, right? Because prompt engineering works by having trained a chatbot and you're prompting it in different directions just to test its brain, whether it has learned well. So it's called prompt and completion. So I would explain that in our next meeting. So back to the task. Are you annotating? Are you translating? Are you doing prompt engineering or are you archiving? Each of these tasks has their payment. Everything boils down to the word count, the domains, and the analysis you did, right? Then everything boils down back to the sample of business that the people are doing so that you know how you give your prices. So ideally, if you are doing annotation, if you are just starting out, you start with a very low price. Don't let anybody pressure you, right? If you don't have a name, you make a name for yourself. My first task for translation was around 2 naira. Is it 1.5 per word? In fact, no, I started with 1 naira per word. It was pretty low, but I knew I was just learning. So there is this thirst in young people. You want to make money, you want to make money, you want to make money. Some are so blinded that they lose out on opportunities. Everything, money is very important. Anybody that tells you otherwise is lying to you. But it, you must tone down your quest for the money. Once you tone down your quest for the money, you can see the task. Sometimes you take up tasks that you can't do because you want the money, and then you end up choking yourself. And then it turns out that you feel that maybe they are neglecting you, they didn't pay you well. It's not that they didn't pay you well, you picked up a task you don't know. That is breach of agreement. Don't do that. But because you want the money, you want the money, you want the money, and then you lose out opportunities, connections, access. As I said earlier on, volunteering is what? Is profitable. And I've enjoyed it. So if you are doing anything, the first thing as a linguist, one, they didn't make budget for you. So you really want to tone down your thirst for funds. As you grow and as you make name, you begin to increase your, it's a strategy. I started out as 1 naira. Now, except I'm doing that task for somebody I know and the person really is coming as a brother and not as a business person. It's okay. remember the way we are. We need you on this project. That is when I would kind of not kind of tone down my price, right? Not even tone down, I will just accept what they have as budget. But on a business to business discussion, I can't jump on the project and you will not pay me like three, 3,000, 2,000. It depends. I don't care whether it is translation or whatever it is. We start talking on if I'm translating, for example, on like $50 per word, right? But sometimes I even get on projects nowadays that I didn't bargain. They saw my work, they heard about me, and they just come to my DM on LinkedIn, right? So this is the trajectory. You want to understand the business. When I so much love this apprenticeship thing that Igbo people do, but I think most of their youth are even losing out on the essence of the apprenticeship. When you're an apprentice, as far as I grew up, knowing this Igbo culture, I might not be an Igbo person, but I've seen it play out. You don't technically you don't have anything when you're with your boss. But once you're done, your boss establishes you. That is how it is. They technically don't have, but many of their youth now, I'm not sure they want to do that. They want to just make quick money. I've seen in Ilorin, I knew back then in 2003, 2005, because I play drums, we have this incensing. Now it's incensing, then it was I can't remember the name. It's in Taiwan in Ilorin, if you are very conversant with Ilorin. So there is this man there. He was I can't remember his name. Is he Gotex? Yeah. He sells quality drums instrument. There is this man there that I knew he was still a boy then. He was Inchensen. Inchensen was like a boy to him. He will wash his car, do a lot of things, learn the business. He will send him to go and deliver and take in products, because I happen to be there for some time trying to learn too, right? Because as a drummer, I wanted to learn how to tune my drum, how to repair my drums once it is spoiled. But I observed that this man has Igbo students, and they are all with him, and he's trying to train them. So you don't. He keeps telling them you don't need money. I keep wondering, is it that this man is trying to play on this guy? He keeps telling them what you need now is to learn this business, understand how I'm giving my price, understand how I'm making profit, do your plus and not. Even we that were learning how to repair instrument, he was telling us, as a young guy that you are as young as you are, you don't. What you need at this point is how to do this business. Once you master it, you can be a chairman on your own. Should I shock you? When Jensen would graduate in 2010, if I remember vividly, or 2011, he has the biggest shop now. And the funny thing is, he has the shop very beside his boss, and it doesn't really matter, and he's making his money, right? So think about it in that way. You want to tone down your thirst for the money. Why would you? This is slavery. I hear people type on it once and say this slavery is this. You want to compare yourself with someone that have been in the business. You can't compare yourself to me, for example, if you're just starting out. Why? I have been on different projects. I have the network. I have the connection. I have done different works, and my works are already speaking for me. You got to tone down your thirst for the money, and then you begin to move bit by bit and bit by bit. So those are just my words concerning um, the business of data and the word uh, and the word of linguistics. So that is that about that. Do we have questions? Um, we have questions. Okay. If we don't have questions, I'm going to share the link. I'm going to share the group we belong. I believe you can see my screen now, right? So from the link I have, from people that express their interest, these are the people that are in Hausa group. These are the people that are in Yoruba group. And these are the people that are in Igbo group. So I'm going to upload this document and I'm going to share the link together with the video, okay? You don't have to worry about that. So I have people that expressed that they want to be leader for this project for their languages. So I'm trying to check. So we are almost done with the with the with the work. I mean with the meeting we are having. I'm just trying to show you what we are doing next and then start the work. So we had so we have sample of people that wants to lead their language. We have Basil. So Basil wants to lead for Igbo. We have Saad Nasir wants to lead for Yoruba, for Hausa. And then we have a lot of people that wants to lead for Yoruba. So I don't know yet. I'm going to keep them as potentials to lead. So what I'm going to do is when I send in the document, I will bold the name of the people that wants to lead. And then you can know that, okay, this is the person that is leading the group. Then I've been looking for the platform where we will create the data set and make it easier for us. I have not been able to do so. And the reason is because um, all the platforms that I know are now paid. I have access to them, but not everybody will be able to have access to them, which is very pathetic. So what I'm going to do is after this meeting, I'm going to share the link to this document so you know who the group leader is. And then you are going to watch this video again and learn the technique I talk about. So I would share the document in terms of different tasks. The part of speech tagging, the sentiment analysis, the chatbot and the chatbot, and the named entity recognition. So you would have 3 documents per group. In that document, um, I will include the link to the email of the language leads. They can reach out to you and talk to you, and then you can be able to um, do whatever you want to do. So I am happy to meet with any of you if you have questions. So for now, what you are going to be doing is you're going to be expecting that I would send in the document to the group and the leaders of each group. I'll be sending the document for each task. So the document is where we'll be creating the data set, right? So that you can see, and so it's gonna be a Google Doc where everybody can create their data set. So I don't know what each group member will be doing, right? But it should be that they are invariably maybe they have different documents for different people, or they have same document and everybody is contributing in that same document. So I think that will be the way it's gonna run. Do we have questions? Do you have questions? So as I said earlier on, there are different platforms that we could use to build data sets, but most of them are not free now. I just discovered this yesterday because I have accounts on them. I could log in until I sign in with the email I created for this project, and it could not get access. So it says that I would have to pay. So which means that everybody will not have access to it. So we need to look for a way to make everybody have access to it. So we're gonna be using like a free platform to create the data set. So for example, if you are creating a named entity recognition data set, you understand the frame theory that I explained. So you have to set it down for a particular niche you are working with and then expand your work. I would actually suggest that everybody have their own document. So what I'm going to do is perhaps I'm going to try to create all the Google Doc for each person that expressed their interest with their emails, and then you can have your own. Then I will talk to the group, the group leaders to see whether they can coordinate their groups independent of my coordination because I can be a bit busy. I don't know whether I I said your mind, and if you have questions, just let me know. Do you have questions? Do you have questions? Okay, in the absence of no question, this would be the end of the meeting. So I'm going to stop.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm going to